Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So the other day on Instagram, I told you guys that I would be doing some more videos, and I kind of asked my audience what kind of videos you'd be interested in seeing. And although I do talk a lot about careers in the workplace and just what it's like to be a young professional in the workplace, one of the things that I did get a lot of questions about and a lot of interest in is just blogging in general. A lot of you guys were curious to know, how I started blogging and what that blogging process looks like. So I decided I put together a series where I kind of talk about some of the basic blogging daily stuff that I think most people would need to know if they're interested in starting a blog. But in order to do that, I did want to start off with my story and just how I got started blogging in general. So if you think that's something you'd be interested in learning about, then please continue watching. Sorry, I'm like in a group chat right now, and normally it is totally silent, but today, for some reason, every single person wants to be texting right now, and I turned it off on silent, but it's still like on vibrate, so it's like going off every 32 seconds, and you can just see all the green, everybody texting. So, sorry about that, and it continues. Okay, so a little bit about me and how I started. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to leave the link to my blog below, but I have a blog called Gen Y Girl. The URL is Lost Gen Y Girl, but I like to call the blog Gen Y Girl. Now, I've been blogging for 5 years, which is kind of crazy because there's not a whole lot of stuff that I've done for 5 years. I'm kind of notorious for like starting a hobby and then like it dies off like in a couple months. Like I'm just really bad at being consistent with anything. But my blog has certainly been one of those things. I have actually kept with it for the past 5 years, even though it has changed and, the frequency of posts has changed and like the things that I typically write about kind of has evolved throughout the years. But the fact is, like for the past 5 years, I have been a blogger in some way, shape, or form. When I started my blog, I knew nothing about the blogging world. I didn't know that it was even like a thing. I certainly did not know that I could make money off of it. It was not even like in my radar to be making any kind of money as a blogger. And really it just kind of started because at the time I was taking some master's classes and I was pursuing a master's degree in public administration, which meant that a lot of my classes had to do with like HR and leadership. And I just started taking an interest in like a lot of like HR concepts and things having to do with the workplace. And at the same time, I was also actually working. So I was working full time and going to school. And I just started to kind of see in my day job that there was like a lot of stuff that I just didn't agree with and a lot of things that were happening that didn't make me very happy. And so here I was like going to school and learning all these best practices and learning about, how the way leaders were supposed to act. And then I would go to work and it was all these people who were doing the exact opposite of that. And so I really found myself with just like needing a place to vent and just wanting a place where I could throw down some of my thoughts and feelings about the workplace. And really, that's how the blog started. I'm pretty sure I must have gone on the internet and like gone on Google and done a search of like how to start a blog. And if you guys are interested in just the general basic concept of how to start a blog, I have a page that I'll link below that just walks you through the process of just finding a domain, like all the technical stuff, which is just stuff that I had Googled and learned on my own. But it's really not that difficult to actually start a blog. The hardest part about blogging is just being consistent and putting out content there. But so that's what I did. I just picked a domain, picked a name. My URL is called Lost Gen Y Girl because at the time I was very lost. I was lost in the sauce. I didn't really know a lot about anything, and I was very, I was 21 years old, and I was very lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and then the Gen Y part comes from like Generation Y, the millennials, so I was a lost Gen Y girl. I like to think that today I'm a little bit more found, I'm a little bit less lost, but I think we're all still kind of lost, especially in our 20s, and just trying to figure it all out. So as soon as like the basic stuff was up, and when I say basic, I mean just the fact that I had a name, I picked a theme. For maybe 4.5 years, I stayed with the very same theme that I picked on day one. So all the technical fancy elements of making your blog look pretty, I didn't even really start paying attention to that till like, I don't know, 6 months ago. So that just tells you I was a little bit late in the game in a lot of things, which I'll go into later on in the series. But you know what? I did it. I got something going. I got the URL and I started writing. Back to my story. Okay, so back to my story. When I first started writing, I was writing about generational differences in the workplace. I didn't even have like the paid version of WordPress. I had the wordpress.org. So my website URL was lostgenygirl.wordpress.com. And that's because, again, I didn't know that there was even a difference. I didn't know that there was a free version, a paid version. I didn't know that, you needed a paid version to have ads. All of that stuff I really learned just through time and through reading articles and through learning from other bloggers. And believe me when I tell you, that was 100% okay, because what I did do was cultivate an audience. At the time, I had like a lot of HR professionals and a lot of HR industry leaders like just responding to a lot of the things that I was writing. And a lot of the articles that I was writing back then at the very beginning were very controversial. I remember I wrote a post called "How to Get Along with Older Coworkers" or something along those lines. And I'll link to it also so you can check it out. But that was probably my most commented on post. But there were people who like loved it, and then there were people who absolutely hated it. People who bashed me that were like, "You're a millennial who knows nothing. How can you give advice to other people?" And so it was just really interesting those early days, because I was learning the whole like online space. I was learning about the fact that yes, some people can be pretty nasty online. So I was developing some thick skin in that sense, not being super sensitive when people left mean comments. But I really found that I just loved writing. I loved producing content. I loved the fact that I had a platform where I could write whatever I wanted to write. It was totally my opinion. It didn't need to be run by an editor before posting. It was totally my stuff, totally my thoughts and my feelings about things. And there was something just really exhilarating about that. And so I did that for about, I don't know, I want to say like 2.5 years. But during that time, I decided that, I did want to talk about a lot of workplace related issues, but I also wanted to talk about just other things that other 20-somethings were going through. And so I think over the years, the blog has kind of evolved into more of like a lifestyle and career blog. And it's just something that's just natural. It's something that happens. Who I was when I first started the blog 5 years ago is very different than who I am today. And that's like in all senses, because my writing has certainly improved from day one, because like I've had to go back and look at some of the blogs that I wrote back then, and like I've deleted a whole ton of them because they were really, really bad. But that's part of the process. That's part of getting better. That's part of learning how to be consistent. And it's just been an amazing journey. Like I absolutely love blogging. I have an article that I'll also link below that's like the reasons why I love blogging so much. And so if you're somebody who's even thinking about starting a blog, I highly recommend that you do it. I think that so many of us have something to say, and there's so many things that need to be said, right? Like there are so many different niches out there. There's so many different passions and interests that you could be contributing to that conversation. And I found that it just has helped me to be a better communicator, just in general. I think when you are writing your thoughts and your feelings, you're doing a lot more like looking within and analyzing your thoughts and your feelings, which is something that you might not be used to doing if you don't actually have to write it out. So it's kind of like journaling, but other people get to see it. And I don't know, I've met a lot of really cool people through blogging. I've connected with a lot of bloggers that are really, really great people. And then just my readers in general, like when I get emails from you guys, that means the world to me. Like that means that, hey, like I'm actually doing this for a reason. I'm not just, writing for no one, or, in this case of you know, recording a video. I'm not just here talking to the camera for nobody to see.